black mark from McLaren. action from Belgium, round 13 of the Formula One Grand Prix.
After I'd actually done the time when they told me I was P3, I was ecstatic, obviously, but then you always think, maybe if I'd gone that little bit better there, I could have been second or first. You're never pleased until you're first.
Look at that! Jenson Button goes third ahead of Michael Schumacher. This young man is incredible.
The third here in qualifying it's outrageous. I love it. It's great.
Mist and rain for the Belgian Grand Prix. Hello there, welcome to the ITV studio. We told you so. At the end of qualifying, we are in for a wet one. A lot of rain through the night, felt a bit more like mid-November arriving here this morning. More rain, the popular forecast. Take a look what happened to Giancarlo Fisichella in morning warm-up. 145-mile-an-hour smash in the Benetton, a really nasty one. Fisichella emerging with nothing worse than a damaged knee. He will be racing, though, in the spare. They could not repair that Benetton. Delighted Eddie Jordan alongside Tony Jardine. Interesting place this whenever we come here, particularly interesting in the wet.
Well, we have good memories from the wet here, of course, and I'm not particularly perturbed about the weather today, but never anything can, you never know what's going to happen.
There is a suggestion that the race might be starting behind the safety car.
Well, I think it would be a prudent decision, and even though, we were the beneficiary, if you like, of that huge accident 2 years ago, but no one wants to see that kind of thing again. And I see no reason why it can't at least start under a pace car, and it lets the grid form in a proper fashion. And hopefully the FIA and the stewards will agree to that, because certainly I'm one of the advocates that it should be. We'll know very shortly.
No matter how it starts, your man Trulli is up there on the front row. Second time this year. He was there in Monaco as well.
Well, I think this is particularly nice because, Monaco is a place where they all believe that it's a driver that either likes it or he doesn't like, where Spa is beyond all doubt the driver's favourite track, and for him to be on the front row ahead of particularly people like Michael Schumacher, it's great buzz for him. And he's a young driver in the team, and himself and Heinz-Harald Frentzen are making a very good job of it now. It's coming very strong.
Mentioning Heinz-Harald Frentzen there, Tony, what did you make of the sort of continuing spat between Heinz-Harald and David Coulthard in qualifying?
Well, not overly much about it, other than they spoiled each other's runs, and ultimately it affected their grid. But Heinz-Harald Frentzen did say in this first incident, I inadvertently turned in, saw David at the last moment as he did there, but of course that spoilt the last part of David Coulthard's run there through the bus stop, and then it happened again a bit later. Ron Dennis there watching very, very closely as David's lap time affected. David also admitted he was struggling with grip, and here this time was Heinz-Harald Frentzen on his flying lap, and David going around slowly, turning across in front of him. I don't know whether it was tit for tat Ed or not.
Well, you know, the very sad thing about this particular situation that neither driver made any gain from it, and in actual fact they detracted from the overall position where they're starting from today, and particularly on a wet race like it's going to be, the further up the grid is even more important. And this is not the forum to point blame. I think both drivers have spoken to each other. I think the first particular incident was Heinz admitted that he just turned in initially, but he still gave him the room and the time. The sad part from our point of view with Frentzen was that he had to abort the whole lap and it was taken from him. So it was a big loss for both.
Okay, terrific gain for Jenson Button here yesterday though, Tony. Third best of his brief F1 career.
Well, I think it's tremendous performance. I mean, Eddie, all the other team owners have literally been open-mouthed watching the guy. Even there, you know, the inside rear wheel there over the curb and so on. Right from the beginning of practice, wet or dry, he's been sensational. And this is the big, big test. Here in Monaco, big test for a Grand Prix driver. And in his first season, it's just a tremendous performance. He is ahead of Michael Schumacher, he's ahead of Ralf Schumacher. I don't know how Ralf is going to take that, but it's just sensational, nothing short of.
Quick word from you about Jenson Button.
I have to be guarded about Jenson. What do you want me to say?
That's why I said a quick one.
What are you going to say? He's useless or he's great? Whatever happens, I lose.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting. Tony brought up a very nice point about Ralf. I remember 2 years ago having a bit of a struggle with Ralf to get him to be sure that he had to race for a team when he was behind Damon. The vital thing was to finish first and second. I'm wondering how Ralf and Jenson will feature this particular weekend.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Thank you very much. Well, no matter what happens to Jenson here today, he is on the move. He goes from Williams to Benetton. Let's have a word with his two bosses, shall we? His future boss, Flavio Briatore, coming up in just a moment. But first of all, we're going to hear from Sir Frank Williams.
Clearly, as a schoolboy, he's got no respect for the elder drivers around him. But he just is terribly smooth in these fast corners. And the car's getting very well with him. But a remarkable performance from a man who is going to be dominating Formula 1, I would imagine, in a few years' time.
Which I suppose does beg the question, Jenson's performance this afternoon coming so soon after he's been announced as a Benetton driver next year. Is there kind of any sort of second thoughts about that?
Well, there are always second thoughts because we're always human. But we made a choice quite a while ago, we hope for a very good reason. And the only gratification and today is that, well, not the only one, is that, of course, Jenson has to come back in 2 years' time for a further 2 years. And I expect we'll be looking forward to that very much.
I think so. Frank have a different idea, and Montoya maybe is much better, and who knows. But I'm very happy to see Jenson there, and I'm very happy for my team for next year.
Right then, Tony, take us through the grid for the Belgian Grand Prix.
Well, Mika Häkkinen, the man to beat, wet or dry, totally rejuvenated. Truly, he's requested that they all try and get through the first corner neatly and carefully. Button, his best ever and the team's best ever this year. Michael Schumacher's had all the fans doing a big rain dance, the German fans, all night. He's got his wishes. David Coulthard got it all to do from that position on the grid. And Ralf was balked, he said. Villeneuve, surprisingly, not going flat out through a Rouge. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen, we know about. Herbert equaling his best from Germany previous in this year. Barrichello well back. Fisichella, awful weekend for Benetton. You saw him crashing this morning. Heidfeld alongside Zonta. Zonta couldn't get through a Rouge properly. Denise De La Rosa and the Arrows disappointing. That low downforce car meant to go very well here, and it hasn't been. A lazy caused that yellow flag incident at the bus stop towards the end of practice. Wirtz, Verstappen suffering like De La Rosa, and Genet and Mazepin in the Minardis on the back row of the grid as usual.
Well, last year, for the first time in something like 13 years, we actually had a dry Belgian Grand Prix weekend. The injured Michael Schumacher was missing, but the McLarens, well, they had a field day.
Good one for David Coulthard, who edges up alongside Mika Häkkinen, who is on the inside. And Damon Hill has already been passed by Schumacher.
Coulthard, then Häkkinen, two cars stalled on the line, but it's a 1 minute 47 second lap, so plenty of time to clear those stranded cars. A message on the computer, Mary. Incident involving car 1 under investigation by stewards.
Car 1 is Mika Häkkinen.
Häkkinen, of course. Watch this start again. Coulthard squeezing Hakkinen up against the wall, and the two McLarens actually touched. What on earth's going on here with three abreast here? It looks more like a super speedway race.
It's a Lacey taking Barrichello.
Hakkinen in the pit lane. Everything seems to be going well. A wipe of the visor. First gear, it says on the other side of that lollipop. Oh no, some kind of drama there. And he's away.
Johnny Herbert out of the race again, sadly, in the Stewart. This man who has such appalling luck.
And here's Coulthard. Yes, he's got away, no stall in the engine. A great stop for Coulthard. I think that's going to give him another 4 seconds of lead.
Sarno comes up to take his teammate.
This battle is significant because Ralf Schumacher has been lapping at the same pace as the cars in front. At this rate, it's just 19 seconds behind Irvine. Irvine's got to stop again, which means that Ralf could pinch 4th place off Irvine. So Sarno has to hold him up.
And David Coulthard comes home to victory at Spa in Belgium. A brilliant win. He's dominated from the beginning, and David Coulthard wins in Belgium.
David Coulthard's first victory at Spa, his favourite circuit. He could do with an action replay this afternoon. So far this weekend, though, David Coulthard has been a bit off-key. After qualifying, he chatted to James Allen.
There's a few unfamiliar names in front of you on the grid tomorrow. Is that going to pose any kind of problem, do you think?
Well, the only one who hasn't been there before is Jensen. Obviously, Jarno was in front in Monaco. Yeah, the further down the grid you are, the more difficult it is because you run in dirty air. We just have to see how the start goes and take it from there, really. You know, none of us have a crystal ball, so that's why we have to wait until tomorrow to see what's going to happen.
Since your mega performance at the French Grand Prix, Mika seems to have taken the initiative, but it seems to have been based largely on a series of amazing starts that he's made. Is there something in the way he handles the levers or the clutch or anything else that he does differently from you that gives him that opportunity?
Well, obviously, I study the data to try and understand exactly what he does relative to myself, and he's just hooked it up with very little wheel spin initially and got good starts. You know, we're only talking maybe 2-3 tenths up to a certain speed, but that's enough at a start to gain the places that he's gained. You know, I do those sort of starts regularly in practice, but I just haven't managed to repeat it in the heat of the battle or the start of a Grand Prix. So each one of my starts I did yesterday were equal to the 2 starts he did in Hockenheim and Hungary. If I can do that tomorrow, I'll be looking good.
The good news is, though, it's still very close in the championship. There's only a few points in it between the 3 of you. A lot, 50 points available between now and the end of the series. Is there such a thing as a make or break race at any point? I mean, obviously, right now it's just ebb and flow. Isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's, you know, a championship's not won until your nearest contender can't get more points on you. So in the same way, it isn't lost. And it's going to be close, I think, for the next few races. You know, as we speak, Mika's looking very strong. He's on the pole, and Michael and I are 4th and 5th, and Rubens is even further back. But that doesn't mean that's the way it's going to be tomorrow. And obviously, my goal is to try and get as many points as I can. It's going to be an interesting few races, you know, starting with tomorrow's race.
You must be chuffed, though, that McLaren seem to have got some clear air now in performance terms between yourselves and Ferrari. They, both in Hungary and here this weekend, they did seem to have fallen back 3-4 tenths behind you.
Yeah, certainly. If you look at the qualifying performance of Mika relative to the Ferraris, then that's certainly the case. And I think had I had a clean run, then, you know, I don't know Michael's qualifying session, how it went, whether that was his genuine quickest lap, but certainly there was a quicker time available from me, not enough to get the pole, but certainly enough to be on second. And it does look like we have a little bit of an advantage, but it's turning that into 10 points on race day. And you know, there hasn't been a good run of pole sitters taking the win. So you know, nothing against Mika, but I hope that's the case and the 5th place man comes through and wins this one.
5 to go then. Coulthard 6 points behind Hakkinen, favourite for the championship and odds on to win today. Michael Schumacher, he's won here 4 times. He's had another victory taken away on a technicality. Barrichello has only scored 1 Spa point in 7 races. And Fisichella, well, he has had a quite dreadful weekend so far. 6 wins apiece then for McLaren and Ferrari, separated by just a single point, a massive gap really. Back to the 4 teams battling for 3rd, and they include Eddie's yellow Jordans. Eddie, what about David Coulthard? Is he going to be world champion this year or not?
David's in a very difficult position. He's starting this race where he is on the grid in 5th place, and unless he finishes first or second, he can really start thinking that his days for this championship are over. I'm pretty brutal about my assessment on that because the number of races in the future absolutely favour Mika Häkkinen. And he has to pull out a big performance today, and personally I hope he can do.
It's the start that he's particularly worried about as he comes out now, like all the other cars, about half an hour to go to the start here. And we're hearing actually that it's not actually going to be started behind the safety car. There's a bit of a row going on over there, because I think one or two team bosses, Ron Dennis for example, like you want to start behind the safety car.
Well, when I came here about half an hour ago, the conditions were such and the cloud base was very low, and I was just thinking that perhaps, you know, unusual as it may be behind the pace car, I just thought that let's get this race away without the massive incidents that can happen. It's a very tight first corner and it's very prone to accidents. Let us start and let us have a safe race. However, I'm not privy to the current conditions and whether it's getting better or not, but at that time coming in here, yes, I was in favour of a safety car.
I might have missed it. Who do you fancy to be world champion of the big three?
You'd have to go with Häkkinen at this stage. You know, McLaren have definitely found another gear, no question about it. Michael Schumacher, as good as he is, although this is his kind of weather, he will be very strong here.
They've been doing the rain dance for him so far. Okay, Eddie, thanks very much indeed. Let's just sample a lap of Spa in one of Eddie's yellow Jordans. It is Heinz Harald Frentzen in the dry, by the way, and Martin Brundle to talk you round.
On board with Frentzen, then he needs a clear lap. He's not yet in the race, up to 160 miles an hour before turning into La Source, just 35. Run over the rain gully, try and get the car straight, and then apply the throttle. Very, very cool and calm so far for Frentzen. Eau Rouge coming up 180 miles an hour, 185 now. Click the curb on the left, make sure you touch the curb on the right, pop over the crest into Radion. Again, calm for Frentzen. Now listen how long the engine is in 7th gear, maximum rev, climbing up the hill towards Lecumbe, 205 miles an hour, down to 3rd gear. He plucks it on the apex, 85 miles an hour now, building up to 105. You can sweep through Malmedy in 4th gear, lean on the curb on the exit, up to 170 miles an hour before breaking downhill into Rivage, 2nd gear, 70 miles an hour. Despite the camber, you can't get on the power too early. Now catapult into turn 9, 135. It beckons you, but you have to be cautious. They didn't get on the power early, now heading downhill once again to Pouan, up to 185 miles an hour in 6th gear, down to 140, turn in early. Let the car sweep wide. Now you should not have to lift the throttle again before the exit. 170 miles an hour, building to 190. Bring the car to the left for Fagnes, 3rd gear. Frentzen's only in 4th at the moment, 85 miles an hour. Takes another one on the apex, now catapults into the first part of Stavelot, which is just 70 miles an hour through the apex. Coming over the 2nd timing point now, 150 miles an hour. Surprisingly, a little lift there from Frentzen. This is where Fisichella went off in the warm-up for his huge accident. Now it's very, very fast, building up to 195 miles an hour through the left kink before Blanchimont. Again, a slight lift for Frentzen, 195 now going through the exit, and throw out the anchors before the bus stop. Trying to hang on to the back end of the car, makes his own racetrack on the way through the first part of the bus stop. 2 more curbs to launch across on the exit, and over the start-finish line. The driver should have to pay for this privilege.
Longest and quickest circuit of the year is Spa. Well, that's what things look like at the moment, Eddie, and that's David Coulthard. It's still pretty wet out there.
This is not the kind of race I think I'd like to be involved in because, as I say, because of the trees and the lack of wind, that rain and that spray is going to be around for a long time, and it just sits over the top of the cars. Visibility for a driver. Today they earn their money without any hesitation.
As we've been saying, though, and this was a lovely circuit for you, wasn't it, Smart? Jordan's favourite circuit. You had quite a day here a couple of years ago with Damon, in pretty similar conditions, actually, I seem to remember.
If we could pack up and rekindle all the good days we've had here over the years and bottle it up and produce it at every other race circuit, I think we could become world champions almost immediately. But sadly, we're not exactly, even though we say it ourselves, we're not exactly sure why our cars are quick here.
But the other thing, you had a bit of a problem that day with Ralph, because I think he came through on the radio, he wanted to go past Damon Hill, and you and the engineers got on the old radio to him and said, hold station, hold station. Then after that, brother Michael came down to his motorhome and gave him a roasting as well for not letting Ralph come through and overtake.
I think people do very strange things in the heat of the moment.
Oh, yeah, come on, that's not what you said afterwards.
Michael was being a complete nuthead, and he came down quite belligerent and told us what we should do and how we should run our cars. I reminded him his colour of his suit was not the same one as ours, so would he please mind his own business, but in a fairly jovial way. But he was quite clear about it. He wanted Ralph to win the race. We were after two drivers, first and second. The team comes bigger and better than any individual, and that must always be the case.
Okay, well, starting alongside Michael Schumacher today is Jenson Button. It's amazing to think that a year ago a 19-year-old Jenson Button was driving in Formula 3. So are there more young guns to follow him? Murray Walker has been investigating.
For over 30 years, the traditional route into Formula 1 has been through Formula 3. It's a single-seater series, 2-litre engines, the cars are very sophisticated, and if you can do well in Formula 3, you're likely to do well in Formula 1. Ayrton Senna did. Martin Brundle fought against him all through 1983. It's where Jackie Stewart started, Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher, and now Jenson Button, who only last year was in the British Formula 3 series. So, in the closing stages of this year's series, we've come to Silverstone to check on tomorrow's heroes. Top of the list is Thomas Scheckter, son of world champion Jody, and Brazil's Antonio Pizzonia, the current championship leader.
Today England is the strongest place in the world for motor racing, and that's why I think it is important to be here and learn a lot. And of course Formula 3 it's always really strong championship, and all the Formula 1 teams are looking to the Formula 3 drivers. That's why I'm racing here.
British F3, if you look who's gone, Jenson Button's gone to F1 last year, Antonio's testing for Benetton this year. It seems to be a very good proving ground. If you're quick enough, you can make it into Formula 1, and you don't have to look at Formula 1 so massively like it's an impossible job and you have to have massive experience. If you can drive something quick, you can jump into F1 and be quick as well.
While the British series has been a magnet for many foreign drivers, the homegrown talent's still coming to the fore. Gary Paffett has been a revelation this year, winning Formula 3's scholarship class. He's also benefited from Jenson Button's success.
It just gives all young drivers inspiration to know that they can do it. We've thought before that we can do it, but now you know you can do it because Jenson's done it. And you think, well, I was as good as Jenson, I was beating Jenson, I should be able to go and do it. So it's given us a lot of inspiration to know that we can go and do it. And it's also pointed us out to all of the team managers that they know that we can do it as well.
Another Formula 3 race winner is Bristol's Ben Collins.
Went to America last year to try and get into Champ Car and couldn't get a budget to stay out in Indy Lights despite having a really good season, so it was a shame. But you know, to come back to Formula 3 wasn't like a backward step. It's still, I think this year is probably the hardest year there's ever been, and it's a very good year to be in it. You're learning a lot, you're racing against the best, and if you can beat them, then you deserve to go on.
Back in Jody Scheckter's time, drivers raced in 2 championships at once, and Scheckter Jr.'s doing the same, racing in Formula 3 and F3000. Bruno Junqueira has just won that championship, but instead of Formula 1 is looking to follow Juan Pablo Montoya, who won Formula 3000 in '98, to Champ Cars in the USA.
Montoya told me that the car is very similar to 3000, but on the other hand, I already drove Formula 1. I'm Williams test driver, and I know that Formula 1 car is very exciting to drive. I think if I can get one top Formula category next year, I'll be very, very happy.
So a new pattern seems to be emerging. Formula 3 feeds Formula 1 and Formula 3000 feeds American Champ Cars. But as for who will make it big, we'll have to wait and see.
Jenson Button has made it in. If you'd have been Frank Williams, would you have let him go?
I'm not the person you should ask about that. I think Frank has lost it. I think he's lost complete control of his marbles. They're gone, because anyone who has developed Jenson Button and seen the talent emerge like what we've just seen, spend a year doing that and then releasing him to a rival team for 2 further years, I just can't understand that logic. But maybe Frank has his own answer to reply of.
Okay, you've got to go back over there, 20 minutes to go to the off. Before you go, you've got a birthday party next weekend, haven't you?
Believe it or not, we've survived 10 years in this business, and we're having a little party to celebrate that in Donington next week, and we have huge arrangement of different things, both with racing cars and different exciting things, and we have a rock and roll party that evening with a celebrity list that you'll be very happy and proud to have there.
It's all next Sunday though, Ed, yeah?
It's all next Sunday in Donington. It's a special day. I'll just give you one little example that the rock and roll music will knock a lot of people down. It is just sensational.
I hope you have reason to celebrate this afternoon. Thanks for joining us always.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, Ed. Bye. There is Michael Schumacher. The Germans doing a rain dance, and their wishes seem to have been fulfilled, although it is dry at the moment. When you rejoin us, Martin Brundle, with his anorak, will be strolling down the grid.
Johnny Herbert, you found an excellent balance with the car on Friday. Have you maintained that this morning?
I didn't know a word you said at the beginning. I think I heard the last bit. It's okay. I think we weren't too bad this morning with the balance of the car. So, hopefully we can keep that momentum going in the race. The conditions, by the look of things, are going to change as the race progresses, and that's going to make it interesting.
Okay, you're going to leave Formula One, but now things are starting to click with Jaguar and yourself. How are you feeling?
I think I heard that as well. They should be okay as far as, I'm concerned. The American thing is coming along nicely, so it's unfortunate. Yes, it's starting to come together, but, I've made my mind up.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Fine. I think I should be okay for the race. I just back in the knee, and I have a little pain in the neck, but it's okay.
The shattered Benetton will be rebuilt and used as the spare this afternoon. Bridgestone have introduced 2 new tyre compounds for Spa, a heavy-duty and an intermediate wet. Jaguar, Ferrari and BAR tested the intermediates for the first time this morning with varying degrees of success. This morning's conditions gave the drivers their first opportunity to try the cars with a wet setup. Was this a radical new front wing at McLaren? No, the team had just forgotten to remove the covers before sending Coulthard onto the track.
There'll be an inquest about that. Well, race strategy is always a very tricky call. 2 stops, very much the norm here at Spa, but these sort of conditions present their own special problems. More on that from James.
You're dead right, Jim. Normally in the dry, this is a 2-stop race, clear and cut. But as soon as you get a bit of rain, a lot of people think of playing it safe and going for 1 stop. Trouble with Spa is there's a big time penalty for carrying the extra weight of a 1-stop fuel load. So I expect most of the front runners to stick to the original plan and stop twice today. What they might do is put a little bit more fuel in for the first stint, particularly if the weather forecast tells them there's a break in the weather coming up, they might try and stop then. Safety cars also will keep the strategist on their toes today. What I can tell you, I've just spoken to the Williams strategist, and he assures me they're going to put Jensen on an aggressive strategy. They're going to try and win this motor race today.
Bookmakers tell me that Button's odds have come in from 100 to 16 to 1 to win his first Grand Prix here this afternoon. Let's pop down and have a word with Martin Brundle. Now, Martin, what is the latest on the start? Safety car or not?
I think it's still very much under discussion down here, Jim. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a nice bank holiday weekend. Just want to remind you just what a short run it is down to the first corner and how narrow the track is, why it's always quite critical here at Spa for the start of the Grand Prix. This is the safety car with a rather powerful engine, going to be driven by Bernd Mailander. I wonder if we're going to see that used today. Normally it would disappear about 5 minutes before the start procedure. It can stay here up to 1 minute, and I know Charlie Whiting, the race director, is still canvassing the drivers to find out how much standing water there is on the track. Bad accident here 2 years ago, of course, but I have to say, in my view, there's nowhere near enough water on the track, certainly at this end of the circuit, to warrant a safety car. Here are the 3 types of tyres that Bridgestone have put out for ITV to have a look at. This is the intermediate they ran this morning, but it blistered, that it will not be used this afternoon. This is the medium tyre that seems best suited, and this is for with heavier grooves if it really rains. Now, I've spoken to 4 or 5 teams, got completely different story on what they're expecting this afternoon in terms of weather. Some teams say it's not going to rain again. Other teams say it's going to rain extremely heavily around 2 o'clock. So I think there's a half a chance we can just get a quick word here with Jensen Button, and he's talking to Charlie Whiting. Charlie Whiting canvassing Jensen's opinion, which is amazing when you think this is his first Grand Prix here, let alone in these conditions. But we'll just wait for that one to finish. So Charlie Whiting, race director there. Jensen, watched you out on the circuit Saturday, super smooth, got it up to 3rd on the grid. You were quick in the rain this morning. You seem to have it covered always.
I think so. The car's been working great all weekend. From the first time I stepped foot in it on Friday, the car's been working very well. We've changed a few things since then, and it just seems to suit the circuit very well. Obviously, Beamer have done a good job on the engine as well, and obviously we're looking for a good result, but with this condition, anything can happen.
All right, well, you were the quickest car on the track at the end of Hockenheim when it was raining hard, and you were quick again this morning in the wet. You seem to really, you know, in these conditions, you must be expecting to be a challenger, surely.
I'd hope so. In practice this morning, we were a couple of tenths off Mika, but all I can say is I can't wait.
What did Charlie Whiting say to the race director? He wants to, your opinion presumably, on whether you think you should start with a safety car.
Yeah.
And what did you tell him?
I can't really say that, can I?
Well, you can say. You're not going to give anything away. Do you think it should or not?
I think it should.
You think it should start under the safety car? Thanks for the time you've given us. I know that you want to get your head into gear. Good luck. Let's wander over and see if we can find the Coulthard. He is... Ron, should this race start under the safety car or not?
I think it'd be prudent, and I think hopefully it'll happen that way. I think there's a high chance of first corner accident without the safety car, and why not eliminate that risk?
That's a yes. See you. Right to Coulthard. He's down here, 5th on the grid. Pretty poor qualifying for David. He only really got 1 decent lap in. Let's see if we can find him. He's talking to engineer Pat Fry. They're having a bit of a technical talk here, so I don't want to cut in at that point. We got 30 seconds left, but DC got 30 seconds left. What's your view? How wet is the track around the far side?
It's still wet enough to mean that, you know, in this area here, you're going to have very bad visibility. So although it looks like it would be quite safe to start without a safety car, I think the safest thing is to have one. although that obviously takes away any chance that I might have of gaining places at the start.
Do you think they will then start under safety car, or do you think it looks too dry to me, frankly?
Yeah, that's the problem. You know, from standing outside, it looks too dry, but it's what happens on the track, and it is a difficult call for Charlie. But I think if Michael and Alex, being the other two GPD guys, if they agree, then I think we'll go with it. So let's wait and see what they decide.
Your strategy today?
I need to move up the grid, so I've got to go for it. It looks like it might dry up, so we'll take a punt and set up, hoping that it does dry.
Thanks for talking to us. Well, a lot of different views on whether the safety car should start this race. Back to you, Jim.
Well done down there, Martin. This fella, safety car or not, goes so well round here.
Yeah, we had to think about, you know, his first win here in '92. He was the first to come in and put slicks on in the wet. He did it again in '95 from his worst ever grid position, went out on slicks in the wet.
Michael Schumacher we're talking about, of course.
Michael Schumacher is the rain master. You just saw Herbert there. You know, in '97 he did an extra reconnaissance lap in the wet when it did start behind the safety car. He went on intermediates then when the rest went on wets. He must not be discounted.
There we are then, Mika Häkkinen, the new World Championship leader on pole, chasing his first win at Spa. Jarno Trulli on the front row in the Jordan. Button, best ever starting spot for him. Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard up there. Coulthard hoping to get the start right this time. Will it be the safety car or not? We will find out very shortly.
Saying the straights are pretty wet, but